Hey folks, Councilman Rasmussen here, coming to you with my update from our Smyrna Town Council meeting last night, Tuesday, September 3rd, 2024. Obviously the meeting was delayed a day. Normally it's a Monday night meeting, but it was Memorial Day. So I hope everybody had a happy and safe Memorial Day weekend. And for those of you who have parents or parents who have kids who are now back in school, congratulations. I know that was very exciting for me as my kids went back, considering I spent the last month pretty much every day with them. Not that I don't love my children, but it is nice to hand them off to somebody else. So, this will probably be a pretty short update because it was a pretty short meeting last night. We didn't have much in the way of agenda items, and most of them were sort of old businessy type of things in the first place. As far as general updates, the couple of events that are coming up that were mentioned last night that folks should make sure you check out. Probably the biggest of one coming up on September 14th is the ambulance station's 100th anniversary, and that's going to be at the Smyrna Middle School on the 14th. I believe it runs from 10 to 4. Event, or vendors, food, all sorts of stuff will be there, sort of celebrating an entity that serves our community and has done so for the last century. So hope to see people out there. Should be a great event. They've got a lot of stuff planned. They've been working on it for a very long time, getting it ready. And I think that's probably the main event. There weren't many other things that were shared as far as things that are getting started here in town. One piece of news that was shared from a town perspective is we have completed hiring one of the positions that we needed to fill, which was an assistant town manager position. This is not a position that we've had for a while, though it is a position that I think most of us have felt we needed for a while. And it's actually one that after a hiring process, we had an internal candidate who stepped up and wanted to take this on. So Jason McNatt has been our Director of Public Works for a number of years, and as of today, he is our new Assistant Town Manager. So congratulations to Jason. It's been a great experience working with Jason. He's a wealth of knowledge. A lot of people know him. He is from this community. He brings a lot of personal knowledge and support for our community. So really happy to have him on board and give him a little bit more work to do, I guess. So there are still a number of other positions that we are working through hiring. Some of those are moving along fairly nicely, hoping to really sort of get the staff that we need in order to be able to deliver as much as possible. That's always a challenge, right? There's always more work to do and not enough people to do that work, which is really hard because it puts extra stress on the team that we do have, because they are doing even more than what it is that they're ultimately asked to do in the first place. So glad to have at least one of those positions filled, and the other positions will be hopefully filled before the end of the year, so that we enter 2025 with hopefully as close to a full complement of staff as possible. As far as agenda items from last night, there was one old business item that was on there, which was the approval of the updated impact fees for the fire and ambulance station. So we had the first reading for this ordinance last meeting, the one in I think it was August 19th. This was supposed to be the second reading of that ordinance. We actually waived the requirement that our personal requirements, not requirement from the state in any way, shape, or form, but we often do 3 readings for an ordinance. We wanted to get this implemented as soon as possible to make sure that any of the potentially very large projects that are in planning phases here in town come into effect, that we capture the true cost associated with those fire and ambulance impact fees. So we actually waived the second reading and made this the final reading of the impact fee ordinance. So that passed the council unanimously. Therefore, our new impact fees for fire and ambulance are in effect going forward. This is a big deal. This is about a year in the works in order to get these updated to better represent the true costs associated with the fire and ambulance stations providing those services to our community. They're not provided by the town. The town gives a little bit of money. I think it's $40,000 a year in our budget to each one of those organizations. They are supported through membership through the citizens, through a variety of grants. but most of those things help pay for operations. Impact fees help pay for their capital costs, and as we grow, those costs increase because you need things like new fire equipment, new stations, and those impact fees are designed to help pay for those. So these are substantial increases to those fire and ambulance impact fees. We're looking at an order of 5 to 10 times increase in what those are, because frankly we've not been charging anywhere near enough for developments to truly represent the increased impact on those services. So those are now in effect moving forward, and it won't impact almost anybody unless you go build a new building or build new houses. It's the only time you ever see an impact fee anyway. So that was the old business item. We had 2 new business items. One of them was more of a housekeeping type of thing. We needed to very slightly adjust the language in one of the ordinances we recently passed around our capital reserve accounts. It's a difference between private sector and public sector entities. In the private sector, the value of your system is referred to as net equity. In the public sector, for some reason, they want you to refer to it as net position. When we drafted and did the first code update, we called it net equity. We needed to change that language to net position. So that was one. We actually waived both the first and second readings because it's literally like a 3-word change in our code to just make sure that we're aligned with best accounting principles. So we did that real quick. And then the last piece, this is the one where there was actually more conversation about it, was around the broadly termed development incentives. So this was asked to be put on the agenda because at the last meeting, it was mentioned that the new impact fees that we have, for fire and ambulance, make a substantial increase of the costs associated with certain types of development. And specifically, this is about in development in the industrial park. The town offers a variety of incentives for redevelopment and development. If you're in the downtown development district, and you want to fix up an old building, there are incentives to help cover some of your impact fees. Typically, there aren't any impact fees because you're already an existing building, but permit fees and some things like that can help in the downtown. In the industrial park, that's a very different sort of conversation. Developing or building big projects out in the industrial parks it's a national game of trying to attract businesses to make substantial investments that ultimately, we call these things job centers, right? Somebody comes in and builds a big warehouse facility, or somebody comes in and builds a manufacturing facility. Those are the kind of things that create jobs in our community, and they create long-term tax benefits for our community. The trick is in how do you get them here? And it's a game that every community plays in how do you provide incentives, or what do you provide folks to come in up front in order to make an investment in your community when you know that the long-term payback is in taxes and increased jobs and all of those other things that take many, 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 many years to see the full benefit for a town. But they are orders of magnitude higher than the fees and things that are up front. So what had been proposed at the last council meeting in August was that we allow our development incentives in the industrial parks to also include a waiver for some of the increased fire and ambulance impact fees. And there was a discussion about whether or not that was a good idea or not. So this discussion was about all of the impact fees. What do we actually offer so that other council members can understand what is out there? And is that reasonable in terms of the true costs with providing those services, and weigh that against, does having too high of fees mean that we won't get economic development in our business park? If it is substantially more expensive to build a building in Smyrna than it is to build it in Dover or Middletown or Milford or somewhere in Maryland, most of these entities don't care where they're located, right? It's more about access to the roads, access to water and sewer, and the upfront costs associated with it. You can't be the most expensive person around, or else you'll just have empty land sitting there, which doesn't generate really anything in the way of taxes. So we talked about it. We're gonna have to come back to it because there's no real answers to this. But I think there's some differing perspectives of different council members about what you should be doing, what is reasonable, and questions came up about what are the true long-term benefits, right? So if KRM decides to build a $10 million building, and we waive some of those impact fees, what are the long-term benefits from the community that offset those impact fees? We already waive, to be clear, our incentives that are already in our code already waive or give us the ability to waive up to 50% of the municipal impact fees. So municipal impact fee, the police impact fee, the parks impact fee, those things. The question was whether or not we wanted to add on any added fire and ambulance impact fees, since those are now actually going to be probably the largest of the impact fees that are associated with any development out in the ambulance or in the IORP, that the office park areas. We're going to have to come back to it, so it'll be another conversation with a little bit more data when we can compare sort of what we offer to other communities to see whether or not we're in line with what other people are doing, and ultimately put that in the sort of cost-benefit analysis of what additional benefits does the community see if you get development in those areas, right? It's been 20 years since the office park has gotten started over there, and there's 2 buildings in there. There's reasons for that. Some of that is that the town has not been competitive in being able to attract those businesses for a variety of reasons. We've tried to overcome some of those, like making sure the water, sewer, and electric were available, but are there other things that we need to be doing in order to try and grow business here in our community? So it will be an ongoing conversation. We started it last night. There'll be more of it, and I'll update you as we get anything from other stuff. So that was really it, though. We did have a short presentation from the Dover Kent Metropolitan Planning Organization, MPTO. They actually have a public meeting coming up. They are doing their what they call it, their 6-year plan, every 2 years, DelDOT does their Capital Transportation Plan, CTP. The MPO does their MTP, which informs the DelDOT's CTP. So they're in their planning process for their Metropolitan Transportation Plan. They're doing a couple of public meetings, one of which is actually coming up pretty soon. Actually, they're all not this week, not next week, but the week after. There's one in Milford on September 16th. There's one here at Citizens Hose Company in Smyrna on September 17th, and then one down in Camden on September 18th. So we're going to put this up on the Town Tidbits. It's an opportunity to come and hear about some of the things that are potentially on their list. We give them input to help them prioritize what they would like to have in their MTP, because ultimately the projects in their MTP are the ones that DelDOT, might end up in their CTP, and that's when it gets done, frankly. So check it out. It's going to be September 17th. We have another council meeting right before that on the 16th, so I'll make sure that I update everybody again on this. But 6 to 8 p.m. at Citizens Hose Company for a planning meeting associated with the Dover Kent Metropolitan Planning Organization. And that's about it. As always, if you have any questions or issues or concerns, please reach out to me. The town has just given us all new cell phones that we are supposed to use for all email and phone communication going forward, rather than just using our personal cell phones and having separate accounts. That's going to be a challenge because I don't like carrying around 2 cell phones with me. But it means that there's probably going to be a new phone number that I believe is probably, if it's not already up on the website for me, it will be. If you have my old phone number, check out that new phone number to text me, and as I communicate with people, I'll probably share the new one for use for town business. So that'll be confusing. Everyone will mess it up, and hopefully, I don't like having 2 phones. So, but that's it. Thanks, everybody. Hope you have a great day, and we'll be back after the September 16th council meeting with another update. Cheers.